Hey Grain Grandmasters, so you want to make matzah? So do I. Welcome to Bread with me. So this is stuff we're going to make in today's recipe. So technically, I should mention this right now, it's impossible to make matzah at home that is kosher for Passover. It's authentic in that it looks and feels and tastes like matzah. It's definitely unleavened, and it's definitely cooked all the way through. Listen to this crunch. At my Seder table, this completely sufficed as our matzah. But if you're worried that this might not be kosher in your household, consult your local rabbi. I found an old recipe online that calls for 8 parts flour by weight to 3 parts water by weight. So I'm starting with that, but I also know that I'll likely have to fiddle with that since every flour is different, and my whole wheat flour usually needs more water to become hydrated than most flours. So I measured out 2 cups of flour, that's 1 3/4 cup whole wheat flour, and 1/4 cup of all-purpose flour. Using that old recipe, I calculated that I'd need about 106 grams, or about a half a cup of water for this dough. So I'll go ahead and add the water to the flour. I've been experimenting with different amounts of flour and water this week and discovered that you get the best results when you use as little water as possible. In a professional oven, that might be different, but I wouldn't be able to tell you. If you want to do this traditionally, make sure you make this recipe quickly. There should be less than 18 minutes between the time that flour is mixed with your dough and your matzah goes in the oven. I'm not too worried about that, but if you are, you might want to cut this recipe in half so you don't have lots of dough sitting around with no oven to bake in. Now I'm having trouble incorporating all of my flour, so I'm going to add a little bit of water, but not too much. As I keep kneading this dough, it's helpful to squeeze it together. I'm trying to get all of the flour hydrated. It's not easy. Now I'll split it into 8 equal-ish parts. Your matzah shape doesn't have to be perfect. It's kind of nice if each one is different, if you ask me. Roll it out as thinly as possible to get an evenish matzah, roll from the middle out and rotate to all different angles. Try not to use excess flour for rolling. I'm rolling on an unfloured surface. The dough is dry enough that it isn't too sticky. I just don't want there to be a puff of flour when you bite into this thing. Now we'll take a pinch of flaky salt and roll it into the dough. This is how you might incorporate toppings into Indian naan. I like this method and I like feeling the salt crystals crunch underneath the rolling pin. Next you need to perforate your dough with a fork. Make tiny little perforations throughout in whatever pattern you like. Traditionally you do lines of holes, that's what I'm doing here. Make sure that the holes go all the way through your dough. This will make sure that water vapor doesn't create one huge bubble in your matzah. Traditionally, matzah is baked at extremely high temperatures, in excess of 800 degrees. My oven only goes to 450 or 475 if I'm lucky. I used a pizza stone to help get the temperatures required to bake matzah. If you don't have one, invert a baking sheet in the oven and bake on top of that. The thermoconductive aluminum baking sheet will help distribute heat to the matzah. Just bake for a few minutes and then flip. Bake for another few minutes until the matzah is definitely baked all the way through. And while that's going, I'll roll out and prepare the rest of my dough and try to multitask with the oven. Enjoy me rolling for a bit. Matzah is the bread of affliction, as the Torah says. It's kind of cardboardy to eat and gross, but making it yourself definitely ups the fun factor. The old story goes that matzah was the food that the Jews made while fleeing enslavement in Egypt. They didn't have time to bake their dough since Egyptians were on their tail, so they carried the dough out into the desert and the sun baked it. Boom! Matzah! I'm not sure that I believe that story, and there's even evidence that it's all made up, but like every year, that's the story that will be told at my Seder table. Hey, while I have your attention, make sure to subscribe for weekly bread videos. I've got lots of tasty bread recipes coming soon, and I don't want you to miss them. Okay, so I'm gonna go bake the rest of these, and I'll be back for a taste test. Alright, time for a taste test. That's definitely authentic. And I am #afflicted, baby. This tastes like the shmara matzah I grew up with. You've got a whole wheat flavor. It tastes like cardboard, and it's perfect. That's matzah. As always, bread is best enjoyed when you share it with the ones you love. If you learned something in this video, make sure you leave a like down below, and I'll bread you later.